All right, welcome to the Sports Mashup number 81, October 12th, 2022 is the date. The NBA season will begin next week. We will cover that more in depth, probably discuss the opening night games, which are on Tuesday next week. We'll discuss those in the next one on Wednesday. We'll also make picks for the NBA next week as well. So that's that. And now we go over to the league that's already started, which is the NFL, where Baker Mayfield, as the disaster in Carolina continues, he's in a boot after the game, unsure of status. Thought I read somewhere high ankle sprain, so
Yeah,
that's going to be a while.
I wrote this like right after the game, and then they came out maybe Monday and said it was a high ankle sprain.
So for the Panthers at quarterback, you already have Darnold hurt. Who knows when he'll be ready? And then you have Matt Corral, who I believe is out for the season. PJ
Yeah,
Walker, I guess.
yeah, that's who came in Sunday.
Yeah, that's a tough situation. And they already had the whole situation with the rule that we'll get to in a moment. But yeah, disaster season in Carolina.
And then you had Tyreek also in a boot after the game. I don't know if they came out on anything about him yet.
I thought he was questionable going into the game. So,
But then, I mean, there was also a ton of injuries with big fantasy impacts this week. I mean, too many just to list.
yeah.
And then I did have the thing about Matt Rule being fired 3 years into a 7-year deal. He still owed $40 million.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
Who did they
from the
name
start.
as the interim coach?
Steve Wilkes, who is the head coach in Arizona that got fired after 1 year before Kingsbury.
So what? No, like, but what is he?
Defensive coordinator. So,
And then
we'll see.
lastly, before we get into the game recaps, you had Devontae Adams get charged already with the misdemeanor. Is a misdemeanor bad? How do they?
I'll say this about
Misdemeanor assault?
yeah, this is like an all-time overreaction trying to get the money from the cameraman.
Yeah, I mean, the fact, like, he got up or whatever, and then you find out afterwards that he had went to the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, just obviously what Devontae did was wrong.
Yeah, he owned up and made the tweet, said he hopes the guy sees it, blah, blah, and apologized in the post-game press conference, but
Now you look at the camera angle from behind Devontae, like he didn't see that guy until the last second. So if you're walking along, and I'm not trying to make an excuse here, if you're walking into the tunnel after losing like that, and you saw how upset he was in the sideline when they were losing like that, and you see somebody walk right in front of you, you don't see him until he's directly in front of you. I think a lot of people's reaction there to push him out of the way. I just
yeah,
think that's
I
natural.
mean, I think the same way. I didn't. There's no way he saw him coming.
Yeah.
And then even at halftime, the Chiefs fans were throwing beer at the players. Max Crosby even threw one back into the stands.
Yeah. So I mean, just a disaster for the Raiders on the field. And
Them
this whole
not
Devontae
them
thing is ridiculous from this
and
guy.
them going for two
Yeah.
instead of kicking the extra point to tie the game.
Really bad. Really bad. Let's get into the week 5 recap.
Thursday night football, you had the Colts beat the Broncos 12-9 in overtime. All I wrote for this was a field goal challenge and mile high.
Takeaway is Matt Ryan sucks. Russell Wilson sucks. The Broncos suck, and they're playing Monday Night Football, so another primetime game this week for this Broncos team that is horrendous.
I mean, this was also without the Colts, without Jonathan Taylor, and then they lost Naeem Hines on the first play of the game. He got knocked out. And still, they brought Philip Lindsay up off the practice squad for the game. He only was out there for 30% of their snaps or something. Deion Jackson. I think it's Jackson, not Johnson. Was the main snaps. And then already Monday, they sent Philip Lindsay back to the practice squad.
Yeah,
I don't know how you don't keep him up with Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so sick of seeing the Broncos on primetime games, and they're getting another one this week. It's just
I know. I was waiting to talk about that when we got to the picks because I was going to be like, we thought last week was enough, or we got them on Thursday, and they're back on Monday Night Football.
yeah, just terrible. London, the Giants beat the Packers 27-22. Packers play an abysmal second half and blow 17-3 lead. Daniel Jones had, I thought, one of his best games of his career with all the plays that he made. I think my takeaway from this game would just be that the Packers, for some reason, think that they're like the way that they play is that of a team that's not talented, which I don't think is true. I think they're very talented. So just how conservative they play defense, it's been that way for, the entire year. And their offense is just, they don't run the ball enough. Aaron Jones, I think, is clearly the best player on the offensive side of the ball, not counting Rodgers, and they just don't use him enough. And that was on display here.
No, and even if you overuse him where he needs a break, you have AJ Dillon who can power the ball.
And they had 3rd and 2, 4th and 2 inside the 10, run pass options. Rodgers decides to pass, and they both get knocked down. So, I don't know, just a really, really interesting loss because I think it's going to show us how the Packers respond. They got the Jets this week at Lambeau, which if they lose, I know the Jets have looked good, but if they lose this game this week, it's a real issue with them.
Yeah, because even you said after last week, after the Bucks game, you're like, oh, we kind of got an easy couple games here.
Yeah.
Well,
they got the Jets and the Commanders now. The Giants are for real.
With this game, I saw that there's trade talks about the Packers for Kenny Golladay. With them signing Odell.
I don't see it. I will say I think they needed a loss like this to kind of wake up a little bit because Rodgers said last week after they beat the Patriots that that style of winning is not sustainable, and this was just a complete collapse in the second half. They had 20 points in the first half. They had 2 from the Giants taking a safety on purpose at the end of the game. So
I do think these London games change the aspect of a game.
Yeah, and I think the big factor here that I would point to is the Packers didn't leave until Thursday. That seems pretty late to try to get acclimated.
What? How long do you lose? Half a day going to London?
Pretty much, yeah.
Or something like that?
Close to that.
So then you have the jet lag issue, and then, it always seems like there's an upset or a very close game in London.
Yeah. I think this teaches that the Giants should be taken a little bit more seriously. Because they were very injured, didn't really have any receivers, had a bunch of injuries on both sides of the ball. They still win this game. And I think the game-changing sequence, and this is my final thing on this game, is when the Giants went 90 yards down the field, scored a touchdown, Packers automatically throw the ball 3 times, 3 and out. Giants get the ball right back. So it went from 20-13 to 27-20 in that sequence. And it's another example of the Packers offense trying to play what I call, and a lot of Packer fans call, hero ball, where Rodgers tries to do everything himself and LaFleur just calls those types of plays for some reason. It's very bizarre that they don't run the ball.
I feel like the Raiders do that a lot, and so does Brady.
I think the team that does it a lot where it works is the Bills. The Bills do not run the ball very much, and they get away with everything. So
I did see that they might be in talks for Christian McCaffrey, which might open the running game up a little bit. And that would definitely make them a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen. I think that's too big of a trade to happen in season.
Yeah, but if it did, that would definitely make them a big contender. Their odds would definitely change.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Bills, you had the Bills beat the Steelers 38-3. Josh Allen throws 4 touchdowns in the first half and then coast to the win. It was 31-3 at half.
Steelers are bad. I think that's the takeaway here. Kenny Pickett played a pretty good game overall.
He got a little brawl.
A couple of them, yeah. I like the fire. But the Steelers are bad.
He thought the defender went low at his knees.
I assume Tomlin's job is safe, but man, it's going to be a really, really ugly season in Pittsburgh.
Do you think they stay with Pickett?
Yeah, I think they might as well, especially since clearly they're not going to make the playoffs, you wouldn't think, unless they go on a crazy run. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen because they're significantly worse than the rest of their division.
Yeah, and probably after this game, fantasy-wise, there's probably like the people who had some Steeler players probably lowered the percentage on which players owned as a Steeler. Najee Harris is probably the only guy who's still owned a high proportion.
Yeah, I have Chase Claypool, and I'm pretty much not even starting him at this point. I'd like to drop him, but there's really no other better options to pick another player up. But I will say that in Yahoo leagues, Claypool is 43% rostered, which is down 3% from last week.
Oh, surprising it's not more.
Let me check real quick before we get into the next game. Deontay Johnson, I feel like he's a player. Yeah, he's still 94%. That's probably the only receiver. He
Which
did have
I'm
11
surprised.
points.
What about Pickens? He seems to be the only guy Pickett throws to.
59%.
Is that down or up?
It's up 4. It's not bad. All right. The Chargers beat the Browns 30-28. Brandon Staley, the head coach of the Chargers, gets bailed out by Katie York's missed field goal late. The Chargers were like 4th and 1 on like their own 48 or something. They go for it. They don't get it, which is just such a stupid call. Just punt the ball, trust your defense. And Staley's coaching aggression once again almost ruins a game for them. But they win. I mean, Austin Eckler had a big game, so I don't really know what to make of the Chargers. I think we'll learn a lot about them if they are able to manhandle a Broncos team on Monday that they're much better than. And for the Browns, all 3 of their losses are games they've thrown away. Jets game, they choked. Falcons game was winnable last week. They threw this game away. They had an early lead. So
And
Cleveland hanging on for dear life.
Thankfully for me, Nick Chubb had a big game.
Nick Chubb is pretty much the entire source of offense for that team. And Amari Cooper's had some flashes.
Him and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. We'll see if that changes when Deshaun's there. You got to think they're going to want to throw the ball more.
Hopefully not. Then you had the Texans surprisingly beat the Jags. Was it 8?
I think it was 6.
I thought I wrote 6, but 13-6. I wrote Texans prevail in shocking fashion, snooze fest.
Well,
This game was like 3-3 and then 6-6 forever.
The Jags are better, but I don't know if it's that surprising given the fact the Texans, I know it's new regime and such for both teams, but the Texans have won like 8 or 9 in a row against the Jags.
I know, but just the way the Jags have looked all year, and even in their loss to the Eagles, they still look good. And that was in a rain, like monsoon game in Philly, and then this game just.
Yeah, I think it's one of those games that they just didn't wake up for. And the Texans defense played well. And I think this shows us that the Jags aren't quite there yet. And that's why the NFL overreactions in September are so important to note, because a lot of people are like, okay, the Jags are probably a playoff team this year. But, like, come on, we have to pump the brakes a little bit. This is a team that had the number 1 pick the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So we need to relax a little bit. They have a good roster. They spent a lot of money. Lawrence seems to be better. But you can't just anoint them as a playoff team after like 3 weeks. So, especially since week 1 they lost to Washington, who they should have beaten if they're a playoff team. And, yeah, the Texans are bad. But Davis Mills is like a perfect quarterback for them to just keep this year, next year. Probably draft a quarterback in the first round this year because they have 2 firsts, one of their own in Cleveland. So, I don't know if they'll get Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, but you look at the other quarterbacks that could go in the first round, like Will Levis from Kentucky or the dude from Stanford whose name I can't think of. But you got to think that the Texans will get keep Mills as a bridge quarterback and then draft one in the first couple rounds this year. But they can win with Davis Mills.
I don't think it would be Bryce Young because everyone just goes on about his size.
And I think if you're the Texans, you're probably going to have a top 3 or 4 pick with your own pick. I think you got to take a defensive player. My internet is sucking, by the way. So
I was like, did you just leave?
This is one of those bad internet episodes apparently. So we just got to bear down here. Speaking of which, the Bears did not do that. They lost 29-22 to the Vikings. The Bears fumbled on the final drive, couldn't complete the comeback. Kirk Cousins got up to a great start in this game. I think he was like 17 for 17. But yeah, I know the Vikings are 4-1. I know I'm a Packer fan, so people will say this that like I'm biased against them or something. But I don't see them I see them as a team that's probably going to win like 11 games, but I don't think they're going to make any noise in the postseason. They're too prone to blowing leads or not playing two good halves. It's just
and Kirk Cousins still throws bad picks.
Yeah, and they rely so much.
Which would hurt them postseason.
They rely so much on Jefferson and Cook to like do everything. Thielen like is still good, but I feel like he's not used quite as much consistently as he has been in previous years.
Definitely not. Fields looked better in the second half of this game. He actually
looked like a good game. Yeah. First game where the Bears offense has been competent in the passing game, I would say.
Yeah. The Patriots beat the Lions 29-0. Stevenson runs for 161 yards. The Lions looked horrible. I think I picked this game and was surprised that the Lions got shut out.
This is a classic Bill Belichick game. Like they do this to at least one team every year where they shut them out or embarrass them in Foxborough. Like they've done this to the Jets a ton. Just
like we had just talked last week about how the Lions were at least competing with all these teams, losing. If they were losing by minimal points, they were getting wins. Could be an 8 or 9, 9-8 team, and then boom, get destroyed by a third string quarterback.
Well, the Lions had one of the best offenses in the league moving into this game. Like a ton of yards, scoring a lot of points. They scored 45 points last week before this.
And yeah, were they without Amon St. Brown?
I think he was back. I think they scored 45 without him.
Oh, that was a game missed.
Yeah, so the bottom line is that this is a classic Bill Belichick game. Run the ball efficiently, get turnovers, get after the quarterback.
Except it hurt me because I had Damian Harris, who got hurt early with a hamstring injury.
Yep.
I luckily won in fantasy, but it got close there. But thank God the guy was playing. I had Kelsey and I had Mahomes. So,
yeah, Kelsey's bizarre stat line. We'll get to that. But let's see, where are we? Saints 39-32 victory over the Seahawks. Seahawks offense continues to make some noise. Geno Smith has had a very good season to start, but this is, I guess, the Taysom Hill game. Like, everybody loves to talk about Taysom Hill and how he does everything. He's always got a couple games a year where he, plays well. He was 1-for-1 passing with 22 yards and a touchdown, and then he had 9 rushes for 112 and 3 touchdowns. So he did a lot of the heavy lifting.
Which also killed me because Alvin Kamara still doesn't have a touchdown in the year because Mark Ingram's either vultured it away or they've thrown it.
Yeah, well, I will say this. Is Geno Smith like similar to Davis Mills where the Seahawks could draft a quarterback this year and keep Geno in there as a bridge? I feel like it's a similar situation.
Yeah, and then get rid of Drew Lock at the end of the year?
That appears likely, yes.
Probably. Then you had the Jets beat the Dolphins 40-17. Teddy Bridgewater was knocked out of the game early with a concussion. Jets run for 5 touchdowns between 4 players.
Yeah, the Jets, large amount of young talent starting to show up finally on both sides of the ball. This is a pretty banged-up Dolphins team without a quarterback, and then they had to bring in Skylar Thompson, who I think is a rookie.
Yeah, it was his first career start.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like the Jets are kind of in the year where they're going to be better. They're not going to be horrible, and it's going to be like moving into optimism for Salah next season. But I think this week there's a lot of hype for the Jets going to Lambeau. I think if things go the way the universe usually makes them go, this will be a comeback down to earth game where the Packers beat them. But who knows? I mean, the Jets, there's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, and there should be with how many draft picks they've made in the last few years, plus the free agency signings as well. So the Jets are a team that, they're a scrappy team that's not going to make the playoffs. So that's kind of where you want to be if you're not looking to still rebuild, which I think the Jets are ready to move out of that.
Yeah.
Bucks beat the Falcons 21-15. Falcons scored all 15 of their points in the fourth quarter. Not enough against the dominant Tampa defense. I mean, Falcons back down to earth a little bit. There's some controversy here with that roughing the passer call, which is a pretty bad one. Kind of like 2017 NFL stuff where they first started calling those like that.
But the worst was like the play before this, there was definitely pass interference on Scotty Miller. And the announcers were so mad about that not being called. And then when they called the roughing the passer, they totally forgot about that play.
Yeah.
And it was all about that roughing the passer.
I was surprised that wasn't
I agree
called.
that was a bad, like a horrible call. Like he didn't throw him to the ground or put his body all the way on him. Like, was that the Bengals, or what game was the other one that happened in? Was that the Monday Night Football game?
Yeah, I think it was.
I'm trying. Who played Monday night?
Chiefs Raiders.
Yeah. When Jones stripped him, had the ball and landed on him.
Yeah.
Though I believe they said in that still would have been the offense's ball, which I don't know how, but
yeah, I don't.
Like without the penalty, it still would have been the offensive ball, and like he totally stripped him and had possession of the ball going to the ground.
Bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, Fournette actually was running the ball better. They were using Rashad White, but Brady still does not look like Brady.
Yeah, threw 51 passes in this game, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. And didn't score as much as I thought they would.
Titans beat the Commanders 21-17. Titans get third win in a row. And then I wrote, how much longer will Wentz be the starter?
Well, I know a lot of people took all those Ron Rivera comments from earlier in the week pretty overreactions to those. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Wentz is bad. I think we all knew this. I think they were kind of taking a shot in the dark anyway with him because they do have when healthy, their roster's pretty good, especially you look at their front on defense, and they have a good receiving core, and Antonio Gibson's a good running back.
And now they got Brian Robinson back, which he didn't have the greatest stat line, but it was his first game in the NFL coming off of a month after getting shot in the leg twice. The Commander fans gave him a big ovation.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I think it's more coaching than anything. I wouldn't be surprised if Ron Rivera is the next coach to go with how big of a disaster it's been this year. Just a couple of years after making the playoffs with Taylor Heineke as their quarterback, which
is he the backup?
I guess. I thought they drafted somebody, though. Didn't they draft Sam Howell from North Carolina?
I don't remember.
I think they drafted him. But, yeah, Wentz is bad.
But, I mean, if they have Heineke, I mean, he's proven that he can win.
Yeah, I mean, with that division, I don't think there's going to be much winning going on for Washington, but Wentz has been bad, and it was proven with the goal line interception at the end. Speaking of bad, the Panthers lose 37-15 to the Niners. Matt Rule got fired. Embarrassing loss. They just got embarrassed again. The Rule thing didn't work out, obviously. They gave him a ton of money. And if you're a Giants fan right now, you got to be pumped that Rule picked the Panthers over the Giants because that was bad. And Rule, I'm sure he'll go back to college and get almost any job he wants, given his track record in college at Baylor and Temple. So, yeah, the Niners first place in the West because you got Arizona 2-3, you got Seattle 2-3, you got LA 2-3, and the Niners are 3-2. And I can guarantee you the Niners would not be 3-2 if Trey Lance was their quarterback.
Correct.
Even though Jimmy G against the Broncos was really bad in that loss.
Yeah, but that was also him coming in right after the injury. Like we said, they looked good when he actually had a week to prepare. Then you had the Eagles beat the Cardinals 20-17. Eagles hold on to stay undefeated. The Cardinals made a comeback on this game, but the Eagles defense is still pretty good.
Came into the season talking about how good the Eagles roster was. A lot of people were all over it. I didn't think they'd play this well, but so far so good. And I think this, Sunday night game, Cowboys-Eagles, is going to be a very, very good game to watch because you got two really, really good defenses right there. The Cowboys defense has proven it every single week with Cooper Rush. They've played well enough to win. And the Eagles defense, there's a lot of talent there. Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis. You also have, you look at the secondary as well that played really well in week 2 against Minnesota. So all levels, the Eagles offense as well is there's a lot of talent there because Devontae Smith is starting to break out, Miles Sanders, A.J. Brown. So
yeah, I'd say this is the Cowboys' biggest test since the first week against the Bucs.
Yeah, because the Rams have been horrendous. Like the Rams' offensive line has been terrible. Stafford hasn't been the same.
Well, that and you go like the Cowboys, then you have a pretty good back in Fournette and a great receiving core with the Bucs, and then ever since they haven't really had that or to go against that.
They faced Barkley for the Giants, and the Giants kind of laid an egg in that game anyway.
But then they don't have the receiving core, where like the Eagles have, even past Miles Sanders, other good backs and a good receiving core.
That's true, but I will counter with this. They faced the Bengals, who I know their offensive line's bad, but they have a very good receiving core and Joe Mixon. So
yeah, I think when they played them, though, either Boyd or Higgins was out.
And the Bengals offensive line was like really, really bad.
Yeah.
So we'll see if I think the Eagles offensive line, if anybody can hold Micah Parsons down a little bit and keep him quiet, or DeMarcus Lawrence, I think it could be the Eagles offensive line if healthy. I know they had some injuries, but if healthy. Cowboys, speaking of them, they beat the Rams 22-10. They're now 4-0 with Cooper Rush, 4-1 on the season. The Rams offensive line failed as the Dallas defense continues to impress. I think I need to apologize to my old head coach, Mike McCarthy, because I said after Dak went down and how bad they looked in week 1, I said it's either going to be Matt Rule or Mike McCarthy who gets fired first. And it obviously ends up being Rule. And my old friend Mike McCarthy's done a great job this year. I think Dan Quinn's a big part of that with that defense as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing Mike back at Lambeau later in the season, week 10.
And what did I see? There was something. Dak tests his thumb with throws, but Rush likely to start.
Almost seems like until you lose, right? If they lose this week,
the other top headline is McVay Rams haven't made last offer to Odell.
Huh.
So you never know if he's coming back to play on some more turf.
He'll go play with Von Miller in Buffalo.
Then you have the Sunday night football game. The Ravens beat the Bengals 19-17. Justin Tucker saves Harbaugh hitting a 43-yard field goal as time expires to win.
Yeah, I really can't figure out either one of these teams. I don't really know what to think.
But Tucker's post-game press or interview on the field was pretty funny. They were she was like, "Oh, you were 6-19 in pregame." He's like, "Well, good thing they don't keep stats on pregame."
Yeah.
He's like, "This is a hard stadium to kick in. You get the wind and everything else, and the weather." He's like, "Baltimore's not an easy field to kick in, but yet I still do it."
Boom. There you go. Yeah, pretty boring game though. Not much going on.
Yeah.
It's somewhat of an entertaining game on Monday night. The Chiefs come back from 17-0. They beat the Raiders. Travis Kelce's stat line was 7 receptions for 25 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's kind of stupid.
Yeah, tell me about it. I was like, "Hey, can you throw it to anybody else?" They had the first touchdown was actually thrown to Edwards-Helaire, but he was down at the half-yard line. They had overturned that one, but yeah, I mean, the Raiders got up big. You think they're just going to coast, and then Carr goes into just targeting Devontae Adams. Waller, I think, was out after halftime or in the middle of the second with a hamstring injury. He didn't even have a target. He didn't throw to Renfro very much either. So McDaniels needs to get the offense actually all working together.
Yeah, it can be hard to do when you're implementing a new system with some new players,
and the touchdown to Devontae, the first one, was well underthrown.
Yeah.
Like that corner almost caught up to him. The second one, though, was a dime that he threw.
And also, the Raiders are now 1-4, so they're kind of screwed, you would think.
By not kicking an extra point, by trying to go for 2 to get the lead.
Yeah, not the brightest of moves.
Especially with the Chiefs not having Harrison Butker, their kicker already had missed a field goal earlier. They had went for 2 because of that and failed on it. So I don't know how you don't tie the game in hopes that the Chiefs can't come down and score again and try kicking a field goal with the kicker they don't really trust.
Yeah. Seems like McDaniel's kind of pushing too hard to try to win. And they're 1-4, and they've had some close games, but
I could see him not lasting the whole season.
Yeah, I think just because it's his first season, I think they'll let it slide. But I will say this.
Yeah, but they've had him there before.
They blew a 20-3 lead against the Cardinals. And that was kind of like, okay, they're in big trouble because that was bad.
See, they've been down this road with him before, so just because he's back again, I don't know if that means that he lasts.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's get into the golf.
Last weekend you had the Shriners Children's Open. Winner Tom Kim won $1.4 million, shot 24 under. Went into the last hole tied with Cantlay. Cantlay made a bad drive off of the tee, and then instead of taking a drop and taking that penalty, he tried punching out, and because of his lie, he couldn't make it out into the fairway, ended up losing the hole. So that's how Tom Kim won. But they did say this could be a matchup for the Ryder Cup for years to come.
Could be.
And then this weekend you have the ZOZO Championship. Defending champion Hideki Matsuyama. This is at Cordia Golf, Narashino Country Club in Chiba, Japan.
Good field for this week. And Weird Hours weird golf hours in the United States with this tournament. So
yeah,
we will see. All right. Baseball is where we go next.
It was. When was the final games last week?
Wednesday, I think.
So then, right after we recorded, the Aaron Judge was left out of the lineup in the final game. Was .004 behind Arraez, which I believe is on the Guardians, right? Luis Arraez.
Twins.
So Aaron Judge, I forgot what Arraez did in their last game, but Judge could have surpassed that and won the Triple Crown, but they hold him out of the lineup.
Yeah, he needed a breather, I would assume, at some point after that. Not too surprising. You also had the Royals fire manager Mike Matheny and pitching coach Cal Eldred. So Matheny's second go-around as a manager does not work out in Kansas City, and now they'll look elsewhere. So you got Miami will be open with Mattingly out, Kansas City open with Matheny out, and then other places where coaches were fired, you have the Angels are keeping Phil Nevin in there for next season, and the Phillies you would think are going to keep Rob Thompson in there as well after how well they've played. So that would be my assumption.
You had I don't think this is the final thing. This is the Game Days 22 MLB Awards. You had the NL. The MVP was Paul Goldschmidt. AL Aaron Judge. NL Cy Young was Sandy Alcantara. AL was Verlander. NL Rookie of the Year was Spencer Strider, the pitcher for the Braves. AL Rookie was Adley Rutschman. Manager of the Year was Rob Thompson of the Phillies. And Most Improved Player, Andres Jimenez from the Guardians. Most Disappointing Player, Javier Baez. Our Best Offensive Acquisition was Freddie Freeman to the Dodgers. And then you had the Game Days first, or all MLB first team. At the end of the regular season, you had left field Mookie Betts, center field Mike Trout, right field Aaron Judge, third base Arenado, shortstop Trey Turner, second base Altuve, first base Paul Goldschmidt, starting pitcher Verlander, catcher JT Realmuto, and then DH Jordan Alvarez, and closer Edwin Diaz.
I don't see any issues there.
And then the 2022 All John Boy meeting. John Boy, really good on the YouTube. You ever watch his clips?
Yep.
National League, this is going from catcher to pitcher. JT Realmuto, first base Goldie, second base Tommy Edman, shortstop Dansby Swanson, third base Machado, outfield Juan Soto, center field Michael Harris, the second Mookie Betts, and right DH Bryce Harper, utility Jeff McNeil, Sandy Alcantara is the starting pitcher there. AL Adley Rutschman, first base Jose Abreu, second base Altuve, shortstop Xander Bogaerts, third base Jose Ramirez, outfield Julio Rodriguez, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge, DH Jordan Alvarez, utility Luis Reyes, starting pitcher Verlander.
Interesting. We also have the postseason ongoing.
Yeah, the Phillies are 2-0 against the Cardinals, knocked them out. The Padres beat the Mets 2-1. And then starting last night, you had the division series.
Yeah.
Phillies beat the Braves in game 1. Dodgers beat the Padres in game 1.
The American League, the Guardians beat the Rays 2-0 at the crazy second game extra innings. Blue Jays blow a lead.
Bomb.
Yep. Blue Jays blow a big lead to the Mariners, lose that series 2-0. The Yankees up 1-0 on the Guardians. The Astros walk-off bomb in game 1, 1-0 over the Mariners.
And then our players of the week, we are definitely doing a little homerish this week.
Yeah, Albert Pujols, obviously the career over, and we have all-time ranks for his career. He played 3,080 games. That's fifth all-time. 3,384 hits. That's ninth all-time. 703 home runs, fourth all-time. 2,218 RBIs. That's second all-time. 1,400.
Who's he behind in RBIs?
Let me check. Is it? I'm trying to remember who he passed. Hank Aaron is first. 1,405 extra base hits. That's third all time. 6,211 total bases. That's second all time. 263 go-ahead home runs. That's first of all time. And 458 different pitchers he hit home runs against. That's also first all time.
Which is just nuts.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Mine is Yachty, pure ending stats, caught 2,184 games. It's fourth all time. 2,168 hits, fifth all time. Wait, how does that work then?
What?
If he's fifth all time in hits, is this just as a catcher?
Yeah, catchers.
408 doubles, fourth all time. 15,122 putouts, first all time. 9 gold gloves, third all time, which I'm assuming he might get another one this year. Don't know.
Probably didn't play enough.
But currently he sits third all time. Wins caught, 1,234, second all time. Seasons with one team, 19, first all time.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Both in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. No doubt. Definitely Albert, obviously. Got to maybe make a bit of a case for Yachty, but I think he's in. Should be in, no doubt.
I don't think so.
I think people will still argue that, though.
Yeah.
All right, the NHL season has begun. The Predators swept the Sharks 2-0 in the Prague games of last week. They had the season really get underway last night on ESPN, where Vegas beat LA 4-3, last minute goal from Mark Stone, and then the Rangers absolutely dominated the Lightning 3-1 in that opener. And then also notable notes. Number 1 pick Urho Slafkovsky of Montreal. Number 2 pick Simon Nimitz of New Jersey, and number 4 pick Shane Wright of Seattle all made opening night lineups. So we'll see how those guys play. And a big race for the Calder this year for Rookie of the Year, and should be a good season. We'll make picks on tomorrow's games later on in the episode.
1, 2, and 4 are played. Who is number 3?
Number 3 was Logan Cooley, who's playing at the University of Minnesota this year, picked by Arizona.
Gotcha.
And then for good measure, number 5 was Cutter Gauthier for Philly. He's also playing in college this year. So just like last year, Matthew Beniers and Owen Power, the number 1 and 2 picks, both played in college last season. They're here now. So there you go. All right, college football, the top 25. Georgia back up to number 1. They go from 2-1. Ohio State up 1 from 3-2. Alabama, they did win, but it was a close call, and it was without Bryce Young. So kind of weird that they dropped 2 spots down to 3, but they do. Clemson is up 1-4, and then Michigan drops 1-5 despite winning.
That was my thought in this whole top 25. There was a lot of teams who won.
A lot of reaction stuff.
And dropped.
Yeah.
Tennessee up 2-6. USC down 1-7. Oklahoma State down 1-8. Ole Miss stays put at 9. Penn State stays put at 10.
UCLA, the Fighting Chip Kellys, they go up 7-11. Oregon stays at 12. TCU up 4-13. Wake Forest up 1-14, and NC State drops 1-15.
Mississippi State up 7-16. Kansas State up 3-17. Syracuse up 4-18. Kansas State's put at 19. Utah drops 9 spots to number 20.
Number 21, Cincinnati, they're up 3. Kentucky loses South Carolina. They drop 9-22. Texas is back in after destroying Oklahoma. They go from unranked to 23. And the Illini, Illinois, shout out. They're into the top 25 for the first time in a long time.
This last team is very shocking that they're in the top 25.
James Madison, unranked to 25. There you go.
What conference are they even playing?
No clue. I'll say this. I count 5 teams that won and dropped a spot this week. NC State, Oklahoma State, USC, Michigan, Alabama. And Alabama, the only one to drop 2 spots.
Yeah, and I mean, they played a good Texas A&M team.
Was that at Alabama? Because if that was at Texas A&M and they didn't have Bryce Young, why would they drop for winning? I could understand maybe dropping to 2.
I don't remember where that game was.
Okay, it was at Alabama. That still doesn't really, they had a backup quarterback who only threw 19 passes. It's a little weird to me, but whatever. All right, let's do the betting picks of the week.
Last week, I went 6-13. I went 1-7 in NFL.
I went 2-6.
I had the Chargers -2.5 for the Browns. They won by 2.
I had a lot of those as well.
I had the Ravens -3. They also won by 2.
Yep.
The only game I won was the Titans -2.5 over the Commanders, so they won by 0.5 point. College football, I went 2-6. I had Virginia Tech +14.5 over Pitt. They lost by 16. I had Kansas State -2. They won by 1. I had Maryland -3. They won by 2. And then I had Arkansas +9.5 over Mississippi State. They lost by 23.
Yikes.
And I did get 3 golf picks. Correct, though. That's what
saved the week. Yep.
I had Tom Kim to win. I had Patrick Cantlay top 5. He tied for second. And then I had Christian. You got to say his last name. Bazaden. What's his name?
I'm back.
I had Christian
Bazadenhout.
Yep. top 20. He tied for 20th. So I
Not
saved.
bad.
I went 6-13. Now I'm 5-33 and 4-17. Hoping to bounce back.
I went 8-9, 2-6 in the NFL, 5-3 in college football. I had Tom Kim to win, 5-10 and 4-14 now. There you go. All right, the ZOZO Championship in Japan. Who you got?
My winners: Xander Schauffele at plus 800, Tom Kim at plus 1400, and Victor Hovland at plus 1800.
I'll take Colin Morikawa plus 1,400, Cameron Young plus 1,600, and of course Davis. Jesus, I wrote down David earlier and then I fixed it to Davis. Davis Riley plus 4,500.
Top 5 on Sungjae M at plus 200. Top 10 Colin Morikawa at plus 160, and top 20 Sepp Straka at plus 175.
Top 5 I have M as well plus 200. Top 10 I have Victor Hovland plus 175. Top 20 Tom Hoagie plus 120. College football.
You went with Hoagie again?
Yeah, actually,
You're stealing my guy.
Yep, no doubt. Didn't work last time, but let's do the NHL first. Actually, let's do NHL picks for tomorrow.
I have Colorado plus 100 over Calgary, and the Rangers plus 110 over the Wild.
I'll take Colorado plus 100 over the Flames as well, and then I'll take the Leafs minus 190 against the Capitals. College football.
I don't know how the Stanley Cup champs or the
probably because they're on a road back to back because they play tonight as well.
And then I like the Rangers.
All right, I don't hate that either. College football, week 7.
ACC, I got Clemson minus 3.5 over Florida State.
I got NC State plus 3.5 at Syracuse.
I thought you were done picking NC State. Or wait, did you say NC State?
Yeah. I'm not picking North Carolina. Screw them.
I thought you said North Carolina at first, and I was like, wait, I thought you were done with them.
Yeah, I'm done with them.
Big 12, I have Kansas plus 9 over Oklahoma. Oklahoma just got shut out.
I'm taking Oklahoma minus 9 because Kansas starting quarterback done for the year. Got to think Oklahoma is going to want to bounce back from just getting completely embarrassed by a rival like that. So
if I would have known the quarterback thing, I might not have taken that.
Still a big number. And Kansas is scrappy.
Big 10, I'm taking Illini plus 6.5 over Minnesota.
I like it. Illinois' defense keeps games close.
Oh,
Minnesota's got a good one as well.
Minnesota's good.
Yep.
I don't know how they're not ranked.
Illinois, well, they were ranked before they lost last week. They lost to somebody, and then they were ranked 24th now. Illinois is 24th. But I'm taking Indiana plus 11.5 against Maryland.
Yeah, I looked at that game, and I didn't
It's a big
know
number.
And after I thought that our Indiana game was a gimme 2 weeks ago.
Fair.
Who was it that they had played 2 weeks ago? Do you remember?
No. Nebraska.
Yeah, when I had Indiana plus 5.5 over Nebraska, and Nebraska dog walked them, I was done picking Indiana. Pac-12, I have USC plus 3.5 over Utah.
As do I.
SEC, I have BYU plus 1.5 over Arkansas. Arkansas has been on a downslide.
I'm going to take Arkansas minus 1.5.
I even picked it. Yeah, I picked them last week, and they got destroyed by Mississippi State.
I'll ride with the Razorbacks minus 1.5.
You go on that train now. I rode them for 2 weeks and didn't work out either week. So
we will see. Primetime games.
Yeah, we got number 10 Penn State versus number 5 Michigan. Michigan is a 7-point favorite.
I'll take Michigan. They're rolling.
Yeah, I'm taking Michigan as well, even though I am a Penn State fan. Second game, number 8 Oklahoma State versus 13 TCU. TCU is a 4-point favorite.
TCU has the appearance of maybe the best team in the Big 12, so I'm going to take TCU minus the 4.
I'm taking Oklahoma State plus 4. And lastly, you got number 3 Bama versus number 6 Tennessee. Bama is a 7-point favorite.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Tennessee. Playing really well, destroyed LSU last week. Bama coming in probably with Bryce Young that's going to be injured, but playing. Yeah, I like Tennessee to play well here.
I'm taking Bama to bounce back after the Texas A&M game with the backup.
I can see the result, no doubt. NFL Week 6, where Thursday night and Monday night are some electric football games to come.
Yeah. Thursday night you have the Commanders at the Bears. The Bears are a 1-point favorite.
I think the Bears -1 is a lock. They usually play well at home on Thursday nights. They beat the Bucs a couple years ago in one of those situations. I'll take them. Washington's terrible.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bears as well. 5 Sunday games. What do you got?
Bucks -8 at the Steelers. Steelers are terrible. Bengals -2 at the Saints. Give me the Jets +7 against the Packers. I think they'll keep it close, maybe even win. Panthers in a fired coach bounce back game. I think they'll lose, but +10.5. I think they can cover. I'm actually surprised that spread's not bigger, but I'll take the Panthers +10.5. And I think the Bills have been thinking about the Rams. I'll take the Bills -2.5 at the Chiefs. The Bills have probably been thinking about this game since they went down in the divisional round last year, so I will take the Bills to win and cover.
I got the Ravens -5.5 over the Giants. Vikings -3.5 over the Dolphins. Bengals -2 over the Saints. Jags +2 over the Colts. And the Cardinals -2.5 over the Seahawks. And Sunday Night Football, you got the Cowboys at the Eagles. Eagles are a 6.5-point favorite.
I will take the Cowboys +6.5.
I am going with the Eagles. See if they can stay undefeated. Monday Night Football, Broncos at Chargers. Chargers 5-point favorite.
Chargers -5, no question.
Same.
I hate the Broncos. I hate watching them.
I hope the Chargers just have a day. Maybe they'll get Keenan Allen back in the lineup this week.
I hope the Chargers win by 40. So, all right, that'll do it for us. Lots to discuss next week with the NBA and NHL fully up and running. The NHL already is, but the NBA fully up and running next week. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about college football, the NFL, all that, and we'll see you next week for number 82.